Hello and welcome to this first video of the course dedicated to the Internet of Things. In this first video we are going to see an introduction of the Internet of Things, and we will discover this amazing field and all the applications that goes with it. First, what is the Internet of Things? So the Internet of Things, which is usually called IoT, is the idea that all devices around us will one day be all connected and interacting together. So in the Internet of Things, each thing is a node within a network, just like for now our computers are a node in the internet. And each of these things, for example, it can be your computer, of course, but for example, some home automation devices like a video camera, each of these things will be a node in the network, will be able to communicate with other things. For example, this camera will be able to communicate with another thing and with you that some motion was detected in your home. And of course, the Internet of Things concerns all the field of the economy. For example, I just talked about home automation, but also in transportation, healthcare, manufacturing. So really every kind of field in the economy will be concerned by the Internet of Things. So let's dive a bit deeper into the applications. So what I first said just before is home automation. For me, that's one of the main applications of the Internet of Things. For example, you have smart lamps that can be controlled remotely from anywhere in the world. You have all sorts, of course, of connected appliances. For example, a refrigerator that can order food on its own. And also you have remote security cameras, so cameras that can be accessed from anywhere in the world and that you can just monitor from your smartphone, for example. Then you have transportation. And transportation, I'm thinking about smart traffic control, so really some system that has access to every possible sensor in a city and can regulate the traffic automatically. And of course, this leads to connected cars, where we will have cars that interact with each other and drive themselves, and this will really help to reduce traffic jams in cities, for example. Then you have healthcare. And in healthcare, you can have remote health monitoring, so you can monitor the state of a patient, for example, remotely from the other end of the world. And also it will help a lot in emergency services, because as soon as an emergency is detected by the system can automatically call an ambulance, for example, without the intervention of a human. Let's go through some other field of applications. For example, manufacturing is really a big topic in the Internet of Things. So for example, you can have connected sensors on assembly lines that all communicate with a central system. And because the sensors are also connected to the internet, well, you can just monitor the state of the assembly line from anywhere in the world and see, for example, what is the productivity of a factory. In energy management, the Internet of Things will also have a big role to play. For example, connected energy meters. So for example, this is useful to see how much power a given installation is consuming per day, per year, and of course get this information from anywhere in the world. But also these energy meters can then communicate, for example, back to the power plant and help to regulate the electrical network. And finally, you have all kind of monitoring. So for example, pollution in cities. Also, seismic activity monitoring is very important because you can have many sensors in a city connected to a central node that will in real time communicate about seismic activity. So it can really help to, in the case of seismic activity in a city, for example, to evacuate the population before things start to get very bad. In terms of economics, well, the provision is 26 billion devices by 2020. So that's really huge. So there will be much more actually devices than human on Earth. And also billions of dollars are going into research in the IoT field, mainly US, but also in Europe, in Asia. You have a lot of research going into this field. So now let's see some of the challenges. So one of the challenges is the number of devices on network. Because, well, I just say that the provisions say that there will be 26 billion devices in some years from now. And that's a lot of devices to handle for the internet network. So we really need new technologies to really accommodate with that much devices. Also, the cost of these devices is still a challenge because they are way too costly now, and if you want to integrate sensors everywhere, you really need to lower the cost of each device. And finally, the energy consumption of these devices, it's still a challenge because they are still consuming a lot of power, and if you want, for example, a sensor that just measures some basic data, but you don't want it to connect it to the electrical network, you just want it to operate for years on the battery. There's really a lot to do here to lower the energy consumption of the devices. So now we are going to see some of the key players in the field of the Internet of Things. The first one I'm thinking about is IBM. And IBM is really doing heavy research on how to propose Internet of Things solution to businesses. Also, Samsung is doing some interesting research, not only integrating Internet of Things into their consumer devices like TVs and home automation devices, but they're also doing some heavy research on how to make a better network for the Internet of Things. Another key player is Cisco. Like IBM, they are really working on how to propose Internet of Things solution to businesses. And finally, there is Google. And Google recently just announced Brillo, which is an operating system for the Internet of Things. And the goal is really to make it easier for developers to come up with Internet of Things applications. Let's just see some examples of Internet of Things devices. For example, you have Angel, which is a connected wearable wristband, which is really packed with sensors. So for example, a temperature sensor, a heart rate sensor, an oxygen sensor, and all this data is coming back to the internet, and you can monitor your status actually in real time from anywhere in the world. And also you have the August Smart Lock, which is a connected digital lock. So you can basically use this to open or close the door in your home just by using your smartphone. But as it is connected to the web, you can also do that from anywhere in the world, and also share your key with anyone you want. So to learn more, I recommend two resources. First one is a document which is a really good introduction to the Internet of Things by Cisco. And the second one is an introduction to ThingsSpeak, which is a very nice protocol and platform for developing Internet of Things applications.